And that was it. And then I woke up with that energy and I knew what it was instantly. I was like, this is what is going to happen to us. And that's how fast it's going to happen. And it is like going from zero to supernova.
Richard, it is amazing to be here with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina. It's lovely to meet you, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you a bit and just riffing together.
Yeah, I have a starting point for us in this weaving and riffing and seeing what kind of unfolds. You mentioned in a previous conversation that I listened to this big flash of light. And I think it came through in a dream. Can you maybe talk about this with regards to New Human and kind of this conversation that we're going to move into today?
Yeah, no, that's interesting you brought that up. I'd forgotten about that. Kind of. It's a good thing for us to remember as well. Well, it was a dream, and you know we all have dreams. But it was a dream. I guess I call them top shelf dreams. You know, like occasionally you get a top shelf dream, and it just bang wakes you up in the middle of the night, and you are just emanating with it. It's just all around you. It's one of those. You don't get them very often. Well, at least I don't. Um, and and in it, what I saw was our solar system. The whole of I was looking at our solar system moving through the galaxy, which is kind of wild in itself. The whole thing with all the spinning and the different orbits and the whole thing was spinning. And it was incredibly beautiful. And I was watching it for what seemed, I guess, in the dream like a long time. And and I could see kind of, you know, the way it was moving through the galaxy and all of that and its spin. And then suddenly it just it blazed. It was like a supernova hit, and it just kind of, I don't know if at school you've ever lit that those magnesium flares like in the chemistry classes, but it's like super duper bright for like 5 seconds. And anyway, that was what happened. It was like there was a massive supernova, and the entire solar system just blazed and shed huge light in you know, incalculable light in all directions. And that was it. And then I woke up. And I woke up with that energy, and I knew I knew what it was instantly. I was like, "This is what is going to happen to us," and that's how fast it's going to happen. And you know, it is like going sort of from zero to supernova, and it was almost like there had to be a certain geometry, you know, so that the solar system had to reach a certain point and a certain point in space time for that to happen. And until it got there, it didn't happen. Now, if you break that, you know, if you break that down, that's another story. Like, because what I saw was maybe a cosmic version, but if you break it down into like the human version, you know, that could take hundreds of years, that bright flash. And that's more my sense that it'll be hundreds of years, but it's happening now. It's beginning to happen now, and it's happening so fast. You know, in a way, if you look at AI and you think that's a kind of mirror, an external mirror of how fast the awakening can come.
I would love to share an experience I had. And I was reminded of this experience when I heard you speaking, this flash of light, kind of prophetic top shelf dream that you had. It was in April of this year, 2025. And it was this moment where it was very, you know, not out there where you're kind of seeing things as the cosmic unfolding of that shift. But my experience was suddenly the veils dropped and could see, take in, sense everything simultaneously all at once. And I literally, for hours, and it was just after my father passed too. So it was this like perfect moment of time of like shift and change and pressure and like altered state from so much grief and loss. And it was this, oh my gosh, it's so simple. it's it's so all of everything, but it's also simultaneously so totally simple. And I felt like I was cheating. It was such an interesting experience because I felt like I was cheating the human experience. Like I'm cheating because I have access to all of this simultaneously, and I can actually exist in it and live it. Now, it didn't last. I'm not like walking around like that still, but it was maybe a couple days. It was like 2 or 3 days of being in that. I think you had an experience of that many, many, many years ago, potentially. So I don't know if that weaves in to our conversation around how is it that this is going to show up in our lived experience in this, I feel like this time frame of 2025, 2026, 2027. So I'll just kind of drop that in this wild weaving that we're doing and see if there's anything that
Yeah.
you want to.
Well, I guess like for me, I yeah, no, I had an experience back in 1996. That was like my 3 days, 3 nights of sort of a massive awakening, spontaneous experience, and then way later after that, after drifting around the world, kind of lost because I didn't know what had just hit me. Um, I started to piece things together, and I met my wife, and we had a child, and that kind of coalesced everything for me. Like I got grounded, and my ideas got grounded and coalesced. And I remember I had this study at the time, and and I had like suddenly all the things that I had sort of received and learned and picked up down the years, I put on the walls of the study. Like I looked like a madman. And I had like geometric drawings and epiphanies and statements and things, and they were just all over the wall of the study. And my wife was like, "You are really going for it, man. I have no idea where you are heading with all this." And I studied human design, all these other things. Anyway, it all started to coalesce into this book that I then started to write called The Gene Keys, and then that was published in 2009, and that took 7 years to write that book, and because it was a deep contemplative process writing it. It wasn't like writing. I don't know how other people write books, but it wasn't a normal way of writing a book, because I just went into a deep contemplation of each chapter, and it unfolded, and I didn't write it until I was ready, and then it just came out, and then I take another one, and there are 64 chapters, and they mirror our DNA. 64 codons in our DNA. So it was like I was reprogramming my DNA from as I wrote this book. Because every part of it I wanted to understand. I wanted to understand every shadow in our DNA, and that's what
Yes.
Gene Key is based on. Every single shadow. So every shadow I gave a name, like conflict, sixth shadow, or the 29th shadow, half-heartedness, or the, I don't know, 49th shadow, reaction, emotional reaction, and I went into each of those shadows, not just as a thinking process, but as a sort of embodied process, sometimes for months, until I understood them, and until I understood that they each had a gift inside them. So I then gave them names, gift names. So the shadow of reaction became the gift of revolution, and the shadow of conflict became the gift of diplomacy. And so each one started to have a purpose. I began to realize that humanity's suffering and horror story that we see around us actually has a purpose. So inside every shadow pattern is the seed of a gift that could become a flower one day. And so that process of writing that book, and then there was another high level called the Siddhi, which is a Sanskrit word, Siddhi, which means divine revelation or emanation or divinely miraculous superpower, if you like. And I realized that those gifts, like diplomacy, for example, could actually go even further and become peace. So conflict, diplomacy, peace. Conflict contains the essence of peace. So if we knew these things, if we knew that what's going on in Gaza and Israel and all that, and Ukraine and Russia and everywhere else, if we knew that in conflict is the seed of eventual peace, how differently we might approach, life. And also, we'd really be focused on that gift. Like, how do we get this gift out of this shadow? How do we harvest it? And so that then became my journey. 64 of those later, I'd finished the book, and then I went and wrote then I wrote the introduction. Then I put that final full stop, that final dot, and I was like, wow, that's some book. I don't know where it's going to go in the world. I had no idea. I didn't have a publisher, or anything. And the things were all off the wall by then, and they were all in the book.
And this is how Gene Keys was founded.
Yeah, pretty much.
Was that
and
the process?
Yeah, and the 3 days of my mystical experience, I also put into the book, but in a coded form. So the energetic essence of what I learned in those 3 days and 3 nights, I somehow squeezed into that book. And the book is a mystical book and full of poetry and kind of, strangeness. And it's a big book, and it's not easy for people. And people would, I give it to my friends, and they're like, well, what the hell do I do with this? It's like, I don't understand any of it, And so later I wrote another much shorter book, under 100 pages, to give to people like that, called The Art of Contemplation, which is just very practical and easy. But the Gene Keys book is a tome of of mystical depth, and these are the codes of consciousness for humanity, and they're personal, but they're also collective. So they help us understand ourselves and our own strugglings and difficulties, and they help me, and they continue to help me with my, fallibilities. But they also help us envisage our divine light. So they connect us to what I call the miracle field. The field of limitless potential that we can also participate in. And so you can then apply that to humanity as a whole as well. And you can use the Gene Keys to understand psychology and social networks, and why people behave the way they do, and what's good and what's evil, and how does that all, it's all kind of encoded in this very simple framework of shadow, gift, Siddhi. And the purpose of our lives is to harvest and unlock those shadows so that they become those fruits, and then those fruits drop more seeds, and that's our awakening. So yeah, that's
just
what
that.
happened. Yeah.
Just that.
Whew.
I want to mention the word here, star pearl, because I think this is some of your current work or latest work, and I think you were kind of just pointing to it. Can you build on that a little bit? Like this, I don't know,
Sure.
I feel like soul essence uncovered, because for so many people it's so clouded or fogged, like my soul essence, my divine blueprint, my greatest possible potential of living this life. And so if you could bring words, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll go, because star pearl's at the end of the conversation, so I'll go back to the beginning, and then we'll get there. And it might take 5 minutes, if you bear with me.
Perfect.
I'll try and encapsulate.
We have plenty of time.
So, out of the Gene Keys, the codex that I just told you about, the book, then how do you apply that? Because that's all the codes. So I then used human design and astrology as a way of codifying it personally. So I used those systems to then look at and see, well, we each have specific codes from when we were born, and the when and wheres. It's about geolocation in the cosmic clock. And so dividing the astrology wheel, it's not astrology, but it's dividing like a cosmic clock into 64 segments, so that it mirrors our DNA. That's come from human design. And then being able to see, well, which Gene Keys relate to me, and what do they mean, and how do I unpack them and use them in my life. That was my thing. I was like, how do I use this code book of consciousness? So I then created these profiles that come again from the calculation that came from human design, which I studied with the founder, Ra, and who's an amazing man. And but I went much further because I wanted to understand the superconscious. I wanted to understand, well, what are the great gifts? What is, what does the spiritual, divine human look like? And for me, human design didn't get close to that. And so I went off on this journey to understand that. And then came these profiles. So even now, if you're listening to this, you can go to genekeys.com and you can get your free profile, put in your birth data. And it doesn't matter if you believe in astrology or not.
I just want to say I did it this morning.
Yeah.
I just want to share with everyone that I did it this morning and I read the summary. Bang, spot on. And there were a few ahas in there. And I've been diving deep into myself for a very long time. And there were a few ahas. I was like, oh shit, that's good. So just we can get for everyone listening, like I highly recommend.
Let's get into. Have you got yours with you, Sabrina?
I do.
We could use it as an example.
Okay.
We can use you as an example.
Perfect.
And so yeah, then comes this profile with these spheres and lines, and it looks kind of mystical and interesting. It's got all these numbers in it, and the numbers are the codes of the gene keys. And each gene key also has one of 6 lines, and those are further colorings of our character or of our archetypes. The archetypes that kind of are to do with our awakening process, right? So they're very specific. So your shadow, so you have a very specific journey through the shadow patterns. And they unlock in sequences. I understood this, like DNA unlocks in sequences, and evolution moves in sequences. So I created these sequences so that people could contemplate their gene keys in steps and stages in a linear, logical fashion. So you would take one, like, what's your top one? Do you remember? Life's work. It's called your life's work. Yep. It's the one right at the top.
My life's work is 31.
Okay, so 31, gene key 31. That's the shadow of arrogance, the gift of leadership, and the Siddhi of humility. So that's a really interesting one because it's about arrogance and humility. And arrogance and humility are very subtle. This is not simple stuff. Like, it's nuanced. So arrogance can hide in the kind of darkest places. You can even look like you're very humble, but actually there's a subtle thread of, spiritual arrogance or whatever. And so it's about really hunting for these shadows and seeing where they're hiding and how they trip us up in different ways. And we usually find them in our relationships the quickest. All right. So that would be one of your first, contemplations would be, where does arrogance hide in my life? And it may not only be you as well. It might be you attract it. You attract arrogant people, and you're like, then you have to deal with it because it's a shadow as a part of your destiny. So you have to then learn, how do I handle that energy, whether it's in you or whether it's another or whether it's engendered.
Do you want to hear one of my mantras? This is literally one of my mantras. Anyone who's been with me in any sort of retreat online thing in the last few years, they will have heard me say this: humble camel. Humble camel, humble camel, humble camel. Just so like sweet. It's a mantra of mine. It's a humble because it opens doorways that I've experienced. Like, it will open doorways that nothing else can open. Is that genuine? Only the humble camel makes it through the eye of the needle.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So anyways, like, I just want to share with everyone, like, how amazing this is. And now to even have a deeper place to go and these questions of where's arrogance hiding.
Yeah.
So good.
And it's so subtle. Sometimes it's subtle and it takes us years to kind of unpick them. But so that would be, and then you would follow the next one, and there's this whole process and an unwinding and breakthroughs that can open. And then as we access the Siddhis, we begin to kind of feel it in our body. So it's not just it's not just a mental exercise, Gene Keys, it's very physical. I was a body worker for 20 years. All right. So I'm very much interested in the body.
Wondering how your work is so embodied. That's the thing that I see in so much work out there. And I just can't get behind it because it's so disembodied. And Richard, I just want to give also just a shout out for that. And I love knowing that 20 years of being a body worker.
Yeah. I mean, I specialize on the belly. The belly is where everything is, where all the shadow is, right? All
Yeah,
the poo, all the shit, it's all
right.
in the
Like get in
belly.
the
Yeah.
pelvic bowl in that,
Yeah.
hold the hips, like right in
Yeah.
the, yeah. It's,
Exactly. So it was very odd for me to move from that. I took it was like another whole life that I used to have, and then it opened up into this different, more mystical kind of life as a teacher. But yeah, so that's how the work that so then you go through these sequences, right? And there's three main ones. They're called the activation sequence. So if you look at if you're looking at your profile, you'll see these are the ones in green. And then there's the Venus sequence, which is the deepest one, which goes into our core wounding around love and fear, and our childhood patterns and imprinting, and also ancestral patterns that we've inherited. And it's really profound when you go into those doorways of those gene keys, especially the shadows, and you begin to open them. And you go in with such gentleness towards yourself, and you learn to parent yourself, and you learn to understand the codependent patterns that are playing out in your relationships because of things that happened when you were very, very young, and even in the womb. And so it goes right back to this core wound. And then the Venus sequence opens up into the Pearl sequence, which is about prosperity. So as you open your heart through the Venus work, you engender collective prospering. And I just always think that's beautiful, that the first one's about purpose. So it's being anchored in me. This is me. This is me. This is where I am, and you're over there. So I know this is me, and I know that's you. So I can go into a relationship cleanly because I know that that's me and that isn't me, And then you go into the Venus, which is about opening the doors of love and learning intimacy, essentially. It's learning how to be intimate and how to be vulnerable but strong at the same time. And it's years of work going deep into that tunnel. And you have to act, for many of us, it's going into trauma and healing that trauma. And so it's really beautiful, profound work, the Venus sequence. And then the Pearl is the prospering one. It's about collaboration and prospering together as a networked consciousness. It's, in a way, the future human. And then the final one, so you asked about, and then we got there, Star Pearl, is a kind of, I don't know, music, they call it a coda. So at the end of a piece of music, sometimes a big symphony, there's a coda. And the coda takes bits of all the music and the symphony that's come before and wraps it all up in this beautiful flower and says, here you are, here's the whole summary of everything we've just listened to. And the Star Pearl is a coda like that. So it takes a bit of all the sequences and it kind of maps it in a completely unique way. And I mean, what I'm talking about here is years of work that me and my team have put in to create programs out of these, so I'm talking about something that's up in the air, but actually these are like programs, these are books, these are teachings, these are embodiments, these have meditations, these are journeys, these are retreats that we give. These are really embodied, long form content teachings. And the Star Pearl we just released last December, and we have about 4,000 people in that program right now. And it's a 9-month long program that is self-study. So you're doing it on yourself, in yourself. And it's about creating harmony in the whole of your life. So it's very musical. It's about finding the weaker threads of your life. So you do these incredible, nuanced, deep self-assessments that then place you in a kind of cosmic colored framework. It's really lovely, actually, because it gives you a harmonic language. So you're placed, you see where you are in this spectrum, this harmonic spectrum of frequency. And so, and it's through scoring, simple in the beginning. So you're scoring all kinds of areas of your life. You have to think about it, but not too deeply. But you have to intuitively go, well, there might be a question, for instance, about your connection to nature. and there might be which you're asked to then grade out of 100, and you're given sentences like, which one resonates. You're given a shadow or a sort of low frequency, a mid, and a high frequency sentence, and you can weigh where you are in relation to those sentences. And then you do that over multiple areas of your life. And what it does, it gives a really good snapshot of places in your life that are in harmony and places that aren't in harmony. And then immediately the star pearl kind of goes to work on the places that aren't in harmony, and it gives you a little triangle. And in each of those areas, it gives you it serves you up a gene key, for you to work on. And so it's a bit like a mechanic fixing a car. You go to where the car's not working so well. You don't have to rebuild the whole engine. You just go to the bit where it needs repair, and then you tweak there, and you work there, and you open there, and then, and it's very colorful, and it's very imaginative, and it's very empowering, and it's communal as well. So as I said, there's like 4,000 people now. We do a call a month where we hear from people and we hear their breakthroughs, but then we also have things that we're working on with workbooks and other stuff. There's loads of tools, and loads of beautiful meditations and journeys, and and you can take it at the level that you can. People dip and dive through it, but over a period of time, what we've done with the Star Pearl is we've mapped all of those 4,000 people's journey through statistics of their numbers, right? But then the data is like, you don't see anyone's names. So what you see is a community awakening. So we got this line that just steadily goes up, and it has a little blip, and just recently it had a big blip actually up in the last sort of weeks. And we were like, oh, I wonder what caused that. Everyone just had a little pop. And so we meet on the calls, and then we find out, well, what caused that? So anyway, that's the Star Pearl, and it's the crowning kind of crown jewels of the Gene Keys teachings. But they're all interconnected. They are a mystery school teaching, and as I said, they've taken years to lay down. But they're very accessible, and they're very, they're in different languages, so it's very multicultural. So if you take one of our online retreats, for instance, you meet a lot of really interesting people doing the same kind of work all around the world. And that's what I love about it. So that's the Star Pearl, and it also tells you about our community and about the teachings, and sounds maybe to some people like, wow, how do I even begin something like that? But you begin wherever you want to.
I love this. I love this. What I would love to dive into, Richard, off of this, now that there's like a good foundation of Gene Keys and the different bodies of work in the mystery school, I'd love to talk about kind of what you're seeing in 2025, 2026 into 2027. So I know the Dragonfly, that's also been a very symbolic imagery that we've worked with in some of ReWilding courses and mystery schools. It hasn't been the butterfly, it's been the dragonfly. So maybe we talk a little bit about that. I know there's Gene Key 55. I think that's the big sort of one, Pluto moving into that in 2027.
Yeah.
But then there's some other stuff that's going on like in 2025, 2026 with Uranus, with Neptune. So I don't know where you want to start, but
yeah, I mean, I will. I'm doing something next month with Pam Gregory around all this. So we, I'll save some of the secrets until then. But I'd say that, built into the Gene Keys teaching, and when I wrote the book, the initial book, as I said, I was contemplating each chapter, and they came out, and they were about sort of 6 large pages each, and that seemed to be about their length, and that's how it was going. And then I got to Gene Key 55, and it just exploded, and this prophecy came through it, and it was like, oh God, I can't stop writing, and it just kept coming in waves of the prophecy of the future human. And so it was like 5 times longer than any other chapter, and I was like, this is really, and I like neat, right? I'm a Virgo, right? So I like neat, and I'm like, what, this one chapter that's longer, I just, it's like I can't get my head around it. Anyway, so I allowed it because I'm working on my control issues. So I'm like, okay, it can be messy, and everything's messy now. But and it was beautiful though. It was really beautiful, because in it was described the life cycle of the dragonfly as an example of the awakening of humanity. And so you will know, and your community will know how that works with the water of the dragonfly's old life actually becomes the hydraulic engine that opens its new life.
So good.
Yeah. And it goes from being so different. I mean, it goes from being a monochrome underwater predator to being this magnificent, iridescent, multicolored, incredible creature of a dragon, right? And you could never imagine that this thing down here could become that thing up there. How does that happen in a matter of a few hours? And so it became a really good allegory of the Gene Keys, what the Gene Keys was describing, the awakening of the future human. And that's why I said early on, it's like, even though when I saw that galaxy explode, that solar system explode instantaneously into like a vast light, when you condense that down here, that could be hundreds of years, because, if you think about how long it's taken us as the underwater predator, it lives like that for 2 or 3 years, and then in a day, it becomes the dragonfly. If you apply that to us, in a day, we become the dragonfly. And that day might be some time, because we've been here for hundreds of thousands of years. And yeah, but we're at that junction. And yeah, the prophecy of 2027, there's 1987, 2012, 2027, this window of these 3: harmonic convergence, melodic resonance, and rhythmic symphony, I call them. They're in Gene Key 55. If anyone can read that, by the way, I think that chapter is on my website somewhere for free. It's just there. So and there's also me speaking it somewhere. If you put in the search 55, it'll come up. And so yeah, it's a really powerful prophecy about the great change that we're in. And so I guess through all my work over the decades, I'm now getting to 2027. So the answer to your question is, we're here now almost, and 2026, to me, I've given that a name. I've called it the year of the closing door. Because there's a door that's closing and the old energies are leaving for good. And then the new will start coming through. But that doesn't mean that the old are gone. It means that they can't propagate anymore, if you know what I mean. So it means that they will then begin their decline,
Yes.
in earnest. And I have to tell you, that could be really extremely ugly.
Yeah.
We're already seeing it, right? We're already seeing like the beginning of that. Like, we're seeing this massive patriarchal surge of just horror story through various, areas in the world I'm not going to mention.
And I think many of us, Richard, are sitting with, well, when is this going to really start to dissipate, to crumble, to fall? So I love hearing this.
Well, it's, as I said, like, those energies will, after 2027, will be in decline, properly. And my assumption, because of evolution, is it'll take hundreds of years. Sorry. But
slow.
You're going to watch them declining, and they're going to try and cling on, just like the old dragonfly probably tries to cling to its old life. But then at the same time, the phoenix is arising, and so you don't want to be focused on what's dying and declining. You want to be focused on what's growing, the Siddhi. Let the shadow go. That's why in this next cycle of this next year or so, it's the perfect time to root out every last shadow that you have.
This is the question I was going to ask you. This is exactly what I was going to ask you, is what should people be doing in 2026?
Really embracing their fear, right?
Yes.
Really, like, really make a space for fear, right? So the fear of the collective, the fear of the planet, the fear of your, your child, the fear of wherever it is, it's the shadow that doesn't yet know your higher divinity. And so pull it out when it comes. And however you want to pull it out, I mean, I would say be gentle. Gene Key's teachings are always, the great art is gentleness. And the art that I teach is contemplation, because contemplation is about creating a gentle space into which anything can come, anything can be felt, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in, and it has to be done with kindness and gentleness. So you can say something that's bothering you about someone, but you say it with kindness, as much kindness as you possibly can. And you also very kind to yourself and gentle with yourself, which means you might then be more sort of structured and rigid with how you speak to someone else, because they might be crossing a boundary. So you might, through your own gentleness, you might put a solid boundary. I'm sure every person listening to this knows the need for that at times. So yeah, it's a perfect time for pulling out the fear and transmuting it. And
shadow work. I'm hearing shadow work too.
Shadow work,
like whatever shadow work outside of just the fear in the shadow.
Fear, anger, rage, whatever is coming. I mean, at the core, at the source, it's always a grain of fear, but it can come out as anger, it can come out as envy, it can come out as jealousy, it can come out as injustice, it can come out as all kinds of things, confusion, doubt. You look at the Gene Keys shadows, there's 64 words for shadows. You can look every single one, you can look down it and go, oh yeah, those are all my friends. It's like, well, time to let them go.
And
one by
the
one.
thing about shadow that I just want to speak to for everyone listening is we don't know what we don't know. It's the shadow. It's called the hidden. It's hard. I love that, we do a lot of shadow work in ReWilding through dark goddesses, through dark gods, through the 36 archetypes, and they take you into those shadow territories. It's not a mental thinking process. And what I'm hearing also from Gene Keys is that it's 64 doorways into it. And it's not just, it's a contemplative practice. And I've also seen in shadow work, you're not going to get to the shadow without that gentleness, without that field of acceptance, field of, sometimes love is hard to find when you're deep in the shadow work, but this like acceptance, gentle, I love that word. And so I can't speak to this enough. I feel like, and so it's beautiful to have someone else speaking different words to doing this work before. I don't want to be gloom and doom before 2027 comes, but it's this amazing potential and possibility and this door that is open of things that we can do this year, 2025 into 2026. And I don't know what's coming after that, but I just know this is amazing. It is amazing what is shifting, moving, changing.
And absolutely. And likely what happens is that events will continue to happen that bring up the fear.
100%.
And they may quicken more. It's one of the things I've learned about through systems theory. I don't know if you know this, but
a little bit.
In systems theory, what they're looking at is they're looking at the similarity between different systems. It can be the immune system, it can be the ecosystem, it can be any system, the solar system. And what they see is that when a system undergoes a radical change or a quantum leap from, and it shifts towards, it's like a nuclear reaction, right? It becomes more and more unstable. And so you get more and more unstable events occurring in quicker and quicker succession. It's a birth, right? It's like contractions. And so you get these things that the scientists call strange attractors, right? Which are like curveballs, right? You're moving along quite happily and suddenly curveball hits you or hits the planet. And everyone's like, oh, and freak out. The pandemic was a classic curveball, strange attractor. Donald Trump is a classic strange attractor. Anything that comes from the field, from the side that you weren't expecting, and you're like, whoa, what do we do with this? And what they do is they create disruption, you know, to the patterns. And I'm not saying they're good or bad because there's no morality attached. They are cosmic events that are using, you know, humans or animals or nature, or,
This
you
just
know,
makes me think of Uranus,
yeah,
right? It's
very,
the
very
energy of
much
Uranus.
Uranian. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but what they find is that as a system changes, more of those strange attractors appear. They don't know what they are, but they know that there are more of them towards
Yep.
the quantum leap. So the whole system becomes very unstable. So us living inside the system, more and more fear will come out until we begin to transmute it. And I always this lovely one-liner that came to me one day, which is that fear is finite. In other
Ooh.
words, as fear comes up, you can transmute it, like the dragonfly transmuting the water from its old life until it's all gone, you know, and it's been vaporized. I call it vaporizing the victim, you know,
Love that.
and 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 that's how, you know, we become lighter and we become more buoyant and we start to inhabit our gifts and our siddhis. So what I see for people, like for us, awakening communities, is I see a renaissance, right?
Yeah.
A creative renaissance as our gifts emerge from our shadows. You know, the siddhis, those higher transcendent qualities, they may flash in and out, but they're really for a bit later. You know, for some of us, they may take root, and we may manifest, you know, potentially miracles, but they're latent in our DNA. This is the time of the gifts, right? And the gifts are like what come out of the shadows first, and they are our creative capacities. You know, when a curveball comes, instead of doing that, we just go, creative. I can create now. So we respond creatively, and we work together. We collaborate creatively with people on our frequency, and so I see this incredible renaissance coming, beginning.
Wow. I am feeling that so much.
Yeah. And we've got to
And
support each other,
seeing,
haven't we?
yeah, yeah, um, there's a couple of pieces I want to weave off of here. One is I want to just throw this into the kind of cauldron that we're cooking up together here. The things I've been seeing around the dragonfly symbolism and that water being that which propels into the new form. We've actually worked with this as karma being that which propels you
Yeah.
into Dharma. It's the fuel, like that's the fuel is,
Yes.
and then, you know, it's kind of exactly what we're talking about, just different words or a different,
Yeah, it is karma. Yeah.
like, and it's all of it. It's like loving it, you know, which we could also say that that's kind of like the fear of the shadow, or, you know, some of the stuff that we try to avoid, but it's like loving it, like, oh my gosh, yes, this is what got me here. And this is what's propelling me actually to get my wings and open up to these new gifts and this, you know, creative renaissance that we're moving into together. So,
Yeah, and out of that empowerment, we can start to solve real problems in the world.
oh, from a
Yeah,
completely different state. We
from
can't
a
solve
different
the
state.
problem from the level of consciousness it was created at, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and so in a way, the phoenix is, you know, what Ra of human design called the sleeping phoenix. It's a new world. It's a new way. It's a new being. It's a new human that is completely disconnected from the old one.
Yeah.
So we cannot, in a way, it's like it's important to realize this. We can't really fix the old system. The old system has to decline, you know, and so we're going to build not necessarily even a new system. We're going to just inhabit nature in the way we were intended to, and we don't need to overthink that. You know, we don't need to over-engineer that because it's our intuition tells us where we're meant to be. It's like the indigenous people; know how to live in harmony with nature. And I'm not saying we're going to go back to an old way, but we are in some ways, I think, going to return to simpler roots. And some of our technology will come with us. I think some of it won't in the future. I just don't see, it's like it seems to make our life more complicated in some ways. And I think anything that makes your life more complicated doesn't survive a change like this.
Yeah. 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 It's this interesting feeling in this evolutionary state of new, but it's also almost like a remembrance too. So like what you're saying, this new old, and it's such a seemingly dichotomy. It's not either or, it's like both and.
Definitely.
It's why it's like mind bending, and so many people that I'm kind of journeying this path with are like, okay, but is it new or is it old? And I'm like, I don't know. Does it matter? It's just, who cares? Like, do we have to define it as new or old? It's new but old, remembering and.
Yeah, you could say that we're going to take the root stock of the ancient, the ancient wisdom, and then graft a new precious shoot onto it, and then it becomes this beautiful hybrid being. And I mean, like, that's us spiritually. So we really revere our ancestry and the elders and the wisdom of our ancestry, but we also are being reborn in a new epoch, and epochs don't come very often, new epochs. So yeah, it's a time of vast hope and kind of celestial possibility.
I have a crazy question for you. And it's probably not that crazy, but do you feel, actually, I'll weave back off of something earlier you said of taking hundreds of years for this transformation to take place. Do you feel that there are some who are kind of on like the bleeding edge of this, and they're embodying this in a more rapid, moving into it in a more rapid way? I'm just curious what you're seeing around that, or
Yeah, I think when a mutation takes place in a species, because that's what we're talking about a physical transmutation through our biology that creates an actual new species, right? That's what I'm talking about. And when that happens, it's happened before, in our deep past, and it happens to all creatures in time. Evolution always does that. It engineers quantum leaps. It loves to do that, and it does that at certain times when the conditions are right. And so the conditions have to be quite chaotic, and they need things like extra heat. And so we have global warming and stuff, and
the solar.
and those are, they need this. It needs this like rapid turning around, and that means that if humans are changing, they're changing from the inside out, right? And so we're already seeing hybrid models appearing, like of where so we're seeing new kinds of perception, and we're seeing neurodiversity, and we're seeing things that we give them names like autism and whatever, and because we don't understand the capacities that are inherent in that change, and that there's a kind of mutation taking place there, and so and it's not fully born yet, right? So it's like it's coming through in lots of kind of experimental ways. If you think of nature as a whole, it experiments with things and tries out this and tries it out there, and so we are those creatures that nature is experimenting through and going, let's try perceiving the world in a new way that no one's ever seen before. And so we get those experiences of, I can't live in this crazy mechanized world. It's like and because there's enhanced sensitivity, and yet it hasn't fully grounded in the new vehicle yet, because the new vehicles have to also come through So if you think about that, it's like we're given the new perception, but it's still inside an old vehicle, and maybe the vehicle itself, this body, is also going through the changes. So it's very confusing for many of us, and we don't know how to easily navigate. And then all sorts of health problems come up as well, or anxieties and disorders and things, and we give them names and we try and understand them from the old system, you know,
Totally.
and we're doing
Totally.
our best to care for them. The most important thing, I think, is what I said earlier: gentleness and love and patience with yourself, with whatever's going through, to feel it as it comes through. And I would never counsel someone away from going to see a doctor or going to, take advantage of, the systems we've built,
Love it. Yeah.
but also see the limitation of them. You have to see all of it. You have to kind of, don't you? You have to sort of discern for yourself what is right for you, and that's like a massive thing for the new human. Trusting in the intuition above all else.
I love that we're having this conversation. I know that there are a lot of people in the rewilding community who are going through such strange, not just physical symptoms, but the mind shifting,
Yeah.
reality, perception shifting, and of course, health things, just the full gamut of things. And I think it's just good to have this conversation, because sometimes just even speaking to it helps people to go, oh, a little more
Yeah.
gentle.
And I guess, another layer I'd love to add is, the fear of death, right? And we are so conditioned to live in this small bubble of time that we call our life. And, it's like, oh, I always hear this thing that people say. They go, you say it over and over, you hear it over and over. You only have one life, so you got to make the most of it. You only have one life. Yeah, how many times I hear people say that? I'm like, I just want to say to them, no, you don't. Are you mad? Do you really believe that this incredible divine universe that is so beautiful would only give you one stingy little life? Sorry, mate. If you make a mess of this one, eternal damnation or eternal void, you're gone, Oh, your kid died. Oh, sorry. You're never going to see them again. Dead. I don't mean to being mean or stuff, but it's like, it's a very, it's how we are. It's our fear-based belief, and that we're living in a time where we really do not, most of us don't inhabit like this wider consciousness, that lives beyond death. And there is no death. It's just, but we forget. We have forgotten. The layers of the Maya, of the veil, are so thick. And so a lot of this waking up process is about shedding those veils. As the fear goes, as the karma gets burned up, the veil becomes thinner. And the heart starts to open. And when the heart starts to open, we realize we're immortal. We realize we're eternal. We realize we're a soul. We can't die. And therefore, the person who just left can't die either. They're a part of our eternal soul. They're connected to us forever and always will be. And when we leave this form, we're reunited, at the deepest level. So if we can do this work, we will get that memory. We'll get that much wider vista and realize that we're spiritual beings. We truly, not just as a cute thing in a nice little spiritual bookstore, or a weekend workshop. We really are that. It's like when you really get, I would say to people, I don't know what you say, but it's like, I sometimes invite people to just say to themselves, I am immortal. Like, I am eternal. Just say it over and over again. I'm eternal. I'm eternal. Eternity is my home. That is my home, not here, not on this earth. This earth is a temporary home. Eternity is my home. That's an incredible thing to really let your body digest. Because then one day you will know, you will no longer fear death, and we will no longer fear death. And then there may not even be death one day.
It's been so fascinating. It's fascinating to me that you're bringing up death Richard, and this fear of death. Over the last year, a good portion of what I've brought through in different archetypal journeys or mystery school sessions has been to die before you die. In a way, I've never seen it over the last, 12 years of facilitating things. I have never seen this much in 2025 compacted, these experiences, like embodied experiences of dying before you die. Many of the archetypes going into them, which you wouldn't even anticipate that they would bring you to die before, like Sedna. I mean, Sedna's, that's a pretty obvious one, but we just did a huge journey with her in the weekend workshop in Australia. And it was a proper die before you die, let go, because this death that we think isn't real. It's not it. And them just opening up this wider awareness of reality. So it's fascinating to me that you bring up death, and that's been such a top line thing.
And I really, it's like you have to hold both, though, don't you? Because you have to hold both worlds, because you have to also accept that there's grief, there's genuine grief, and that's a part of the journey as well. But knowing that you're eternal does, it changes grief. You still have the grief because you've still lost the loved one, temporarily. But the eternal part of you stays connected to the eternal part of them, and that that feeling never goes away, and it can never go away. So you are consoled hugely in your heart by that, even though you desperately miss their presence, and that's like a really beautiful paradox to live in, and a very painful one, but it's a very beautiful one as well. It's that's what it is to be human right now.
I was just going to say, this is so perfectly speaking to our humanity, like the both the soul that we are and our humanity and this human experience, and holding them, I don't know, so preciously and so beautifully.
Yeah. I know. It's precious. Gentleness is so key.
Richard, how much time do you have? I have a few things that I'd love to throw in, but I want to know how many I can.
No, you can fire away. I'm fine.
Can we talk a little bit about Sedna? I find it so fascinating. To me, she feels like an emerging archetype, but also something, an energy, a sacred energy to me that's kind of heralding in the new human. Her being conjunct Uranus this is just, I could work in this territory for years and years and years and years and years and never get to the full depth of the mystery of this. But I'd love to hear anything that you are seeing, or even from a gene key perspective, or just whatever's there.
I can't remember which key Sedna's in at the moment, but I think I talked about that with Pam.
I did not write that down. I don't know that I knew that.
What it's such a deep archetype, deep feminine, sort of Neptunian archetype that goes so deep, and then that kind of rebirthing. It's a bit like also the skeleton woman myth, where the skeleton woman heals the masculine, and there's this sort of the female heals the male. And I think there's something about that in the Sedna myth, that the sacrifice of the feminine opens up the healing of the masculine. And I think that's what has been occurring on our planet for a long time, and I think it's time for a kind of new version of that myth, where Sedna doesn't get chopped, and but she actually kind of comes back in her full glory. In a way, that's a myth that also speaks to a very ancient epoch of like our kind of Lemurian roots of deep underwater life. Yeah, the deep feminine mysteries of, that have, you know, largely been forgotten. But our DNA remembers all those things. And I think that was a time where the blue and the green of the planet were very much in harmony. And it's interesting today that, the blue and the green are adjusting again, and the blue is increasing, and will carry on increasing regardless of where your morality is around climate change. The water levels will rise. There is scientific endless amount of proof that that's happening and will continue to happen. And I don't want to glamorize that, because I think it could be pretty intense for humanity. But I think that water is rising, and with it is coming a new earth, in a way, a reshaped earth, and a reshaped, the Bible even says, like, the new human comes and the new earth comes as well. So in each epoch, when we have a shift, traditionally in the mysteries, the next version of the new human also has a new earth with a new set of frequencies. And I think the Sedna myth is talking about that. I think it's this rising up from the unconscious, this sacrificial energy that then wants to heal the old wounds, and the waters are very healing, are deeply healing. The feminine, the essence of that gentleness, of that love, like the mother's embrace, the mother's love is what's returning, I think. And I don't know, I see that because when you look at the planet today and you see these very masculine leaders who are actually steering the world in a terrible direction, and don't seem, they're just like kind of kids given the keys to the dad's Lamborghini or something, and they're like 4, and you're like, what do you expect? But then there's this sort of deep patience of the feminine that's waiting, and that doesn't mean that she's doing nothing, but it means that there's a deep surrender to the new energies that are coming, and the knowing that justice is returning. At the deepest level, justice is built into the framework of reality. And so what we sometimes think is injustice, because it feels like it and it looks like it, is a part of something working its way out through the system, so that something new can be born. I mean, that's my understanding a bit, and I haven't gone very deep into the Sedna. I mean, I know the story, and yeah, it reminds me of this. Yeah, go on.
No, just talking about present day, unfoldings in politics and in the world. It's like they're heralding in the collapse. Like that's how it feels to me. It's like, well, of course, this chaos, like that's the collapse, and that's what's gonna help all those energies to dissipate.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, Gaia is Sedna. Like,
Yeah.
she is the sacrifice that then returns, at a higher level. She's also the dragonfly, that kind of gives rise to the new epoch and the new human. And the new human doesn't it's like the book I've just finished writing, I've written my last book. I might write another short book or something, but it's my last big book. It's taken me 5 years to write, and it's called The Sage. And it's you might know the I Ching, but it's the Gene Keys I Ching version. And I've taken all the shadow out of it, so it has no shadow at all. It's just only, so if you use it as an oracle, there's lots of ways you can use it. You can never get a negativity out of it. You can get little cautions, but you don't get any negativity. And I've written it for the future human, and it's like its codes are for us as we go through the transition, so that we can resonate these higher frequencies at the deepest kind of nuanced levels of consciousness. And so when you look at something that seems very negative, you might throw that oracle and you might get the grain of forgiveness or some deep understanding that looks like, I need to understand that through the lens of forgiveness. I need to understand that man or that behavior through the lens of forgiveness. That means I have to go really deep into empathy and feel, well, what led to that behavior? And then you're able to go all the way through. And then not only do you fully understand it and you can empathize with it, but then you know how to respond to it in an empowered way, whatever that response is.
I cannot believe that you brought the word forgiveness into it, because the piece that I'm seeing in Sedna, as I'm watching more and more embody that, her like mystical wisdom and her like just gifts of Sedna, is the forgiveness of the masculine.
Yeah.
So it's, you were saying like it's her sacrifice that's heralding in this new. It's also what I'm seeing, at least, is it's her forgiveness.
Yeah.
And for you to just speak forgiveness in the way you did, I was like, I can't not weave that piece in around Sedna, the forgiving her fingers being cut off, forgiving the betrayal by her husband and her father. Like,
Yeah, like the mother, forgives the kids anything, really, doesn't she? Like they run off and they cause all kinds of trouble, and they come back and she just forgives them, and they sit on her lap, and she's like, "That was pretty stupid, wasn't it?" And I know, and I brought up with my wife. We brought up our 3 kids, and we employed this skill which is not really a skill. It's actually called. She calls it conscious neglect. Where you allow the child to follow their Dharma and learn from their mistakes, but you keep kind of a little eye on them, because you never totally, but it's conscious. You're not really neglecting them. You're actually, you've got a little eye
letting
over,
them
but they
live
don't know. Yeah, so they have their freedom to learn from the mistakes. And humans, humanity, if you look at us, we're an adolescent. We're in an adolescent phase, and it will give way to a more mature phase in time. And the thing about, thing I said about death, and everyone wants to know, well, when's it going to happen? Is it going to happen in my lifetime? It's going to happen in one of your lifetimes. It's going to go on happening. You're going to be here again. You may even remember, if you come closer to the veil being removed, you may remember much more clearly next time, when you're here. And it's not just about past lives. You may even begin to remember some of your future lives. You begin to get a sense that you're eternal, and you're this vagabond that is just playing this incredible eternal role in consciousness. And at that level, at the soul's level, it's a game. Down here on the earth, there is no question of us taking it as a game. Very rarely. Sometimes we have that revelation. But when you're at the soul level, you're like, it's a game. I'm going back in. See you guys. And down you go through the layers, and you inhabit, and each life is connected in the continuity through to the next life. That's why it's kind of interesting. The gene keys are really interesting, because I haven't really taught this yet, but they show us the continuity of keys as they kind of spiral through different existences and portals. So we actually, it's actually very mathematical. The world is mathematical. So even our incarnation process and our reincarnation and our, and our death and our birth is all algorithms. Actually, I saw them one day in one of my biggest experiences. I just saw all the algorithms of existence, and I was like, "Whoo, this is perfect." This is really perfect. Every second is perfect. Every moment is perfect. It doesn't appear that way to the localized consciousness, but to the embodied divine consciousness, which we can attain, at times. You realize the perfection. I don't know. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. I say all of the time, this is perfect. Like I'm always saying that. And
Yeah.
that experience I shared at the very beginning, it was how incredibly divinely orchestrated it is. Every single moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, the perfection of it, it's this complex symphony orchestra of just perfection that it
Mm.
was. So yes, yes.
It's a tough thing for some people to get, which is I'm sometimes careful when I say that. Just is it the right moment? Yeah.
Gosh, Richard, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but
Well, thank you.
I know we've already been going for an hour. So I'd love to just hear maybe two last things. One, is there anything else to share in this conversation that feels like it would serve those who are listening? And then two is, where can people go, right? How can Gene Key support them in 2026? I know you so beautifully invited me into the Golden Path retreat that maybe is open for people or resonates with them. I'm definitely doing that. So maybe just those two things, if that feels okay for you.
Yeah. I sometimes people ask me that, can you say one summarized thing or something you want to leave everyone with? And I kind of I reach out for something new, and I always come back to the same thing. I think
Perfect.
it's just because it lives in my heart, which we've already spoken about, and it's just gentleness, it's kindness.
Mhm.
I feel like that is what is most needed in this time, and even more so will be in the times ahead, because when crisis comes, if we are soft-hearted, then we can access our creativity, for one thing, but it means we're taking care of ourselves, and we're taking care of our body, and we're taking care of those we love, and we're taking care of each other. And that has always been the most important thing, and always will be the most important thing. And so I think, like, we're really hard on ourselves, humans. So I think if you're listening to this, like, next time you find yourself being hard on yourself, give yourself a break. Like that's when I teach this art called contemplation, we create a softness that just keeps arising in our lives. And every now and again, you remember it and you drop into it in a pause. And in that pause, you feel the softness, and it reminds you from inside yourself, oh, yeah, I'm safe. I am actually safe right now. Even if you don't feel safe, you can feel safe in your unsafeness. If that makes any sense. So there's a backdrop where you're okay, where you feel like you can take care of yourself. I am taking care, and I'm taking care of those. If you can take care of your own heart, then you can take care of everything and everyone around you. You will do naturally. So kindness and gentleness is just like, I don't know. It seems like the golden key of existence to me, and it's such a no-brainer. We forget it all the time.
Yeah, it was. I'll just reflect back quickly to point out that Gene Key 41, the arrogance to humbleness,
Thirty-one.
and
Yeah,
31. I think I have a 41 in there somewhere,
yeah,
but
you probably do.
I think I do. But the 31, and that, I'll just be so transparent here. Like that could have, like, I don't know, like, felt a little, but the space held in the gentleness is a non-thing. It's like, yeah, where is that little arrogance piece?
Yeah,
And,
it's tough, Rich.
and just
Yeah,
may we all do that for each other and for ourselves, no matter how
yeah,
sticky the
yeah.
place
Because
is.
you
It
you
could
you
be
look at
so
your shadows,
easy.
right? And you see, and like you might see, like, oh, I've got corruption. You're like, well, I'm not corrupt. I'm not an evil person. Like, yeah, but where does that sneak in? That
Yeah.
energy, does it sneak into your kind of discussion with your child, or something that's like just something that comes into your brain at times and kind of corrupts your data of the way you see things, or kind of takes over a part of you. Or maybe it's, someone you've attracted, it's an energy that's around you in your life. And so you have to look at these keys and these shadows and sort of be really gentle with yourself and go, well, actually, it's an energy that's in the world. So where is it in my life? And because we can't escape them, but these are just themes that kind of find their way into our lives. So they're not to be afraid. They're not to be something to be afraid of. They're something to just, have a cup of tea with them, invite them in. They're like little demons or goblins, and just, sit them down
Okay,
and get
well,
to know them. They, if you make them into like something bigger than they are, like addiction is another one. Like you might have addiction 24, Gene Key 24. Like, how are you going to befriend that energy? You got to understand it. You got to start by just being honest and authentic and going, okay, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to understand it. And you don't even have to like stop it. You just, because how can you stop it, right? Only thing you can do is transform it to another level, and then you get to understand it through your gene key, and you get to see, wow, it's actually a really creative energy when it's used in a different way. Instead of it going down in a spiral, it can go up in a spiral. And yeah, everything, that's the case with everything. So anyway.
Yep.
And
I
then
love it.
I
Now
guess,
tell us,
how can
what we can do. Tell us, yes,
how can you
please.
join in the fun? Well, I told you
Yes.
earlier, like I'm sort of I'm in a closing phase of my life at the moment, and I'm about to do my last big online series of retreats. And so if anyone's listening to this, our online retreats at Gene Keys are amazing. We will be thousands of people. It's like a kind of cruise, and the cruise ship leaves, and when it's left, is left. Right? And so a typical online retreat is about 4 months, and it kind of wraps around your life, whatever your life is like. So they're designed incredibly flexibly. So we know that things change in your life, and we don't want you to be online all the time. We don't expect you to be online looking at things. So but there are weekly themes that you can pick up. There are monthly journeys through the sequences of your gene keys, and your program it wraps around you. So it's really clever. So the system, if you join one of these retreats, you do the golden path. Your program has your gene keys embedded in it. So it's your program, only yours, right? So it then tells you layer by layer, through audios, through videos, through understanding, you can get the book that goes if you want, and it just kind of unravels for you in a contemplative way in your own timing, and we take it pretty slowly. And then we meet. If you're open to also being part of the live stuff, that's beautiful, because then you meet other people who are processing similar themes at the same time, and you learn from each other. Or you can do the solo journey as well if you're just kind of a complete introvert like me. But I always say to people, jump into one of these community calls, because you learn so much. And I tell you, the person you end up in a room with, or the two people you end up in a room with, you won't believe it. You'll be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
how the hell did this happen?
Yeah.
So
It's
I
that
met this
divine
guy from
orchestration
Iran
that
and this
we
woman
love.
from, Australia, and they both happened to be in a car crash, and I was in a car crash, and here we are talking about, it's like I've heard the weirdest things. So anyway, online retreats is, I'm doing my last burst of them over 2026, and I really want to gather as many people as possible to come on them, and they're epic, they're amazing. You can find, we'll put links here, and you can go and check it out and find out how does it work, and how much do I have to do, and how much does it cost, and all of that. It's all there, and it's really sort of, I don't know, we've tried in Gene Keys, I've always tried to make things really approachable, available, and accessible with that. So I hope that, otherwise you can just go to Gene Keys, and there's just loads of free resources everywhere, so you can practically figure it out yourself. But there's nothing like being part of an online retreat. And
I think being held in the container
yeah,
too.
it's the
There's
rhythm.
something Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's
month
an
by month.
energetic to that
Yeah.
container
So the
that's
first one is 4 months. It's the purpose one, and you could do that one. And
where I'm arrogant.
yeah, and if you're really deep, if you want to go deep, you go into the Venus one, which is 6 months. And there's 6 gene keys, so it's 6 months. So you have a whole month to explore one gene key and one line. And also, I mean, I've got this one, because it's my last one, I'm pouring everything into it. I've got my whole team, and we are going to just fill it with fun, surprises,
Amazing.
musicians, meditations, get special guests who you will not be expecting. Some really cool people, all kinds of like surprises. And so, yeah, you can, that we offer lots of different things, but it's really a holding that you get for the
Yeah.
period of as you're exploring the gene keys, your gene keys. You have this beautiful holding energy, and you're held in the lap of this big community experience. And then the Venus one is 6 months, and then there's the Pearl one, which is the prosperity one, which will be in 2027. So some people are signing up for the whole thing already. Like it's like 16 months. It's like wow, that's 2026 handled. So whatever happens
I'm
in
doing the whole thing.
2026,
I'm
please
committed to
come.
doing the whole thing. Like
And
I
Sabrina,
I cannot think of a better time period for this to be happening and for you to be pouring like the
yeah,
big bang. That's how it feels. It's
yeah,
the big
totally.
bang. Here we go.
Get the work done. Get it. Get your gifts. You know, let's create this resurgence, this renaissance. That's what it's really
Yes.
about. And you can do it alongside anything else you're doing in your life as well. It's like it's very flexible like that. It doesn't control you. You control it. So you choose. Some people go super deep. Some people skim the surface. It's depending on you. Some people need logic. We have logic. Some people want somatic. We have somatic. Some people
Yeah.
want, we have it all. So it's kind of, yeah, it's rich. I mean, we've been doing online retreats at Gene Keys from way before the pandemic. So we've really got them very well dialed. We have professional hosts, and we're a sweet, gentle, tender community that holds you through a process that can be quite transformational. So, yeah, it promises to be a biggie.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So if you're up for that, otherwise there's new to the Gene Keys free little program. Find out, get your profile, in you go. Start your journey. Gene Keys is a massive synthesis, so I don't know if you've looked at it yet, Sabrina, but in depth. But we
It's like
mentioned the
never
star
ending.
pearl. That's a whole journey. There's another thing called the dream arc, which is the Gene Keys converted into totem animals, shamanic, and animals. So all the Gene Keys are like birds and mammals and underworld creatures, and it's a right brain journey through the same matrix. That is just vast. There's a whole community that are doing that, and there's all kinds of other things that people explore. The 7 sacred seals, and I don't know. It's like transmissions that have come through over the last 20 years, and they're all interconnected. And it's like it's a mystery school teaching. So wherever you go, wherever you journey, whether it's a free resource or whether it's one of the deep, long programs, you get the same message repeated in a different iteration. So it looks complex, but is infinitely simple because it's just a field of truth. And its only purpose is to keep reminding you that you are love. That's it. You are love. Your love, your love, your love. Your love as diplomacy, your love as peace, your love as whichever gene key you want. Devotion, your love as, commitment, your love as whatever your gifts are, whatever, even your shadows are a part of love. So that's the field. And it's just a reminder. We don't really need teachings at all. One day we won't need them. I hope that in 100 years, the Gene Keys won't even exist. That's my hope.
Yeah. I know. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you.
And we can just hang out in an orchard together,
As
eating
love.
mangoes.
As love. Just different flavors.
Yeah. Uh,
Oh, Richard, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure, Sabrina. And I'm really excited you're coming. And maybe I can bring you on live on one of the sessions and introduce you to my community as well. That would be lovely.
I'd love to. I'll come out of my little hermitage for that.
Yeah, I'll bring you out and
I'm an
you
introvert
you can
like you.
share what you've learned about your gene key, right? About one of them.
Beautiful.
It'd be wonderful. Like, I bet you'll do the most beautiful sharing.
I would love to. I would love to. All
Brilliant.
right, Richard. Any last anything before I close us out?
I think the thing about love was I don't think I can go
I
any further
know
than
that
that.
was the most perfect ending. All right. We're just ending on love. Love, 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 love,
Oh,
love. Thank you all for
yeah,
being here. And just thank you, Richard.
yeah. Thank you so much.